Welcome back to TekkinLife, everyone, and today we will be learning about the particle theory of matter. So let's get into it. The first point of the particle theory states that all matter is made up of tiny little particles. Now let's say we have a board, which we have put as a rectangle right here. This board is actually made up of a bunch of tiny little particles that we can't even see with our eyes. And to see those, you need special tools. It may look something like this, but it's not something you can see with your own eye, and so on and so forth. Things have so many particles that sometimes they're just uncountable. There could be millions, billions, trillions, and even more than that. Now, the second point of the particle theory states that all particles have empty spaces between them. And in fact, in different states of matter, meaning solid, liquid, and gas, we can see how the spaces differ. So in this diagram right here, we can see how the spaces between particles in a solid are very small, and that is because the particle structure is very compact and it keeps the structure together. That ensures that solids cannot take the shape of their container, nor can their size change. For liquids, they're closely held together, yet they're a little more spread out than the particles in a solid. This allows liquids to take the shape of their container, yet their amount doesn't actually change. Finally, for gas, their size and shape changes because gases fill the container they're in. We can see how large those spaces are. Now, the third point of the particle theory is that particles are always moving. Now, the movement of particles, once again, changes between different states of matter. So we can start with a solid. In a solid, the movements are very slow, and typically the particles are moreover vibrating in the spot. They have very small movements and they're very slow in moving. When you move on to the liquid, which you can see right here, we can see that it's a mixture of vibrations as well as a little free-flowing movement. It's a little more movement and faster movement than the solid, but still not as much as what we're about to see with a gas. Now with gases, particles are moving very fast and they're moving in all different directions and they're trying to get as far away from each other as possible. The fourth point of the particle theory states that particles move faster and they spread farther apart when they're heated. Now, I didn't necessarily draw a diagram for this because I'm able to explain it using these diagrams here. When you apply heat to any of these states, the particles begin to move faster and spread apart. Now, correlating that with the point of particles having empty spaces between them, we can find out that adding heat actually can change its state of matter. Now, we can look at a solid, for example. Let's assume this is ice, and these are what the particles look like in a piece of ice. With heat, the particles would begin to spread out, and they would begin to move faster, and eventually they'd become something like this. What does that turn to? Water, which is its liquid state. Eventually, with enough heat, it can turn to water vapor, which is the gas state of it. So you can see how a substance can change its states of matter simply with applied heat. Now this final point states that particles attract each other. In fact, these forces of attraction are what allow the particles to stay together so that it actually forms some type of matter. If there were no forces of attraction, particles would simply spread out, and they would have nothing pulling them together to keep them in the form that they are. For example, in a solid, the forces of attraction are very strong. This is why they're so close together, and it's what allows them to stay together. If you look at a liquid, there's these medium forces of attraction, which somewhat keep them together, yet still allow them to be a little more free-flowing. And in a gas, they are very slight, which is why the particles in a gas are so spread out. And that's the particle theory. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.